This is Enos Sport, bringing you that heat, that far. We keeping the foot on the what on the necks. We keeping the foot on the what on the necks, and like the Tibetan mastiff that I am, I'm applying what on immediate pressure. Because pressure does what? Heat versus pipes. Let's talk about it, man. You see, every time Enos Sport tells you something, in a prediction, King strikes the earth. In a prediction, King strikes the earth. Everybody's saying it. Now you got, you know what I'm saying, all kinds of boxing supposed aficionados, right? We got this chick called the Raging Babe, right? You know, making buzz on Twitter left and right, saying something that he knows the sport Ben said way long ago. That Canelo Alvarez is ducking free smoke. That Canelo Alvarez doesn't want to fight the upper echelon of the middleweight or the super middleweight division. That Canelo Alvarez is a cinnamon horchata. He's a cinnamon dust. Canelo Saul Alvarez, though. Why does Caleb Plant and David Benavidez have to fight in order for Canelo Alvarez to determine if they're worthy of him? It's a things that make you say. It's a things that make you say. Let's run Canelo Alvarez's lineup up real quick. Canelo Alvarez fought a super duper paid to lose in Sergey Kovalev, a guy who had Russian mobsters that was leeching over him. That's why he had to do the super duper paid to lose, because he needed the money, and he got $12 million. Obviously, he didn't walk away with $12 million, because you got to pay Kathy Duva for main events. You got to pay back taxes and all of that. Maybe walked away with 4.5 million out of the 12. And probably 90% of it went to the mobsters. But he had Russian mobsters that he had to pay. This is evident and very clear why Sergey Kovalev would get into something like this. Because this guy has a drinking problem. He has an alleged women beating problem. The guy has issues, man. Andre Ward basically put it out there when he said the championship rounds. When he was talking about that, and famously, he was talking about Sergey Kovalev. When he said all you got to do is take his ass to deep waters, because of the information and the intel that Andre Ward got from this guy. But what we have to tell ourselves in this most cold-hearted, unadulterated, and cutthroat truth-teller fashion is as simple as this. Canelo Alvarez fought a Danny Jacobs that was paid to lose. Had a son who was basically going to the hospital because the son had to get treatments. And they rehydrated him, man. Dehydrated him. A guy that was a cancer survivor patient. Canelo Alvarez has no shame, man. That's why he's called Cinnamon Dust. Cinnamon Canelo Saul Alvarez Horchata, man. Because, like the horchata milk, he has no fucking shame. That's why Mexican boxers don't respect him. Because he's always putting clauses on fighters. Caleb Plant infamously said that Canelo Alvarez reached out to him and told him that they wanted to fight him. This was after 3 to 4 weeks after a training camp that he had. It's a things that make you say. It's a things that make you say. So you're going to reach out to Caleb Plant after he fought 3 to 4 weeks prior to that. When we know damn well, in order for you to fight a fighter at his best, the fighter has to have anywhere between 9 to 12 weeks of a training camp. Let me say it again. The fighter has to have anywhere between 9 to 12 weeks of a training camp, so that the fighter can be able to show you via heavyweight lifting that the fighter's for real, that the fighter's that deal, and the fighter's on that stuff. But Canelo Alvarez doesn't want free smoke, man. So Caleb Plant and David Benavidez got to go at it. We know that even if Jamal Charlo, because he knows the sport and famously talked about it yesterday, Jamal Charlo beats the block out of David Benavidez, it's only going to make Canelo Alvarez ducked up Lions only fashion even more. And you got a whole bunch of Cinnamon Alvarez fanboys that want to tell you, but what about Matt Korobov? Okay, you want to bring that up, Rudy Poor, blah, blah, right? You want to bring that up, Classic Doden Troglodyte? You want to bring that up, Ultra Fanboy with the Ultra Fanboy rhetoric? He knows the sport can refute you in videos. Don't even need to waste his time in the comment section. Refute your ass in videos. We're going to bring it up right now. Canelo Alvarez basically ensured that fighters were in precarious situations. I just brought up The Danny Jacobs example, paid to lose. Sergey Kovalev, super paid to lose. Amir Khan, glass chin variation. He even put him in a clause. This is why Canelo Alvarez is the biggest fraud job in boxing, man. Amir Khan has a glass chin variation. Danny Garcia made this evident. And you're gonna sit here in Canelo, Saul, Cinnamon, Horchata, Alvarez fashion and sit here and have this guy fight you at 155. It's a things that make you say. It's a things that make you say. Only Canelo Alvarez, though. Rocky Fielding. You fought the weakest of the weight class in the middleweight division. And when you finally fought Caleb Smith, this guy didn't even have a full training camp. He told us about this in a COVID-filled 2020. This is why Hinosa Sport calls Canelo Alvarez the LeBron James of boxing, dog. So Caleb Plant and David Benavidez, is that not a super fight at the super middleweight division? I brought up the Raging Babe, this chick, because just like everybody else, this chick is a prisoner of the moment, man. All of these people that are so-called boxing aficionados, boxing professionals, they don't know two flying you-know-whats about boxing. They go wherever the wave tells them. They're followers, man. And it's the blind leading the blind into a ditch. Because if we're telling ourselves the cold-hearted, we're telling ourselves the unadulterated, and we're telling ourselves the cutthroat truth teller fashion, it's as simple as this. We have to look at what's going on in front of us. And what is going on in front of us? It's a bunch of smoke and mirrors, man. Caleb Plant and David Benavidez is a super fight at the middleweight division. So why does a super fight get regressed to a they have to fight first in order for it to be a great fight for Canelo Alvarez? Again, who the flying cow you know what is Cinnamon Dust? Cinnamon Horchata, Saul Canelo Alvarez. He is nobody. This guy hasn't done anything at the middleweight or the super middleweight division, a transitional divisions in boxing, to prove himself as a heavyweight lifter, other than put clauses, other than having paid to lose, other than having rehydration clauses, other than having cherry pickers, other than having wounded animals, and other than having situations where boxing gifting decisions are in his favor, man. And now this whole new nonsense of we're going to slow down or we're going to basically shorten your training camp. It's a things that make you say. It's a things that make you say, But these are the people that are so-called boxing professionals. They don't tell you the truth. They don't tell it to you in its most cold-hearted. They don't tell it to you in its most unadulterated. And they don't tell it to you in its most cutthroat truth-teller fashion like Hinosa Sport does. Because Hinosa Sport hits the thumb and the needle on the damn situation. Caleb Plant versus David Benavidez is a super fight at the super middleweight division. Unless you're a boxing casual, you would know this. So why does a super fight at the super middleweight division get regressed into a cinnamon dust horchata of a Canelo Alvarez? Oh, they gotta fight each other first before they can fight him. Who the flying you know what is Canelo Alvarez? He's not a cash cow, man. Because if he was, the zone wouldn't go bankrupt. The zone would be able to rest their laurels and rest their backing on this cinnamon dust horchata of a Canelo Alvarez. That's the cold-hearted. That's the unadulterated. That's the cutthroat truth teller fashion. See, there's so-called experts, and then there's Hinosa Sport that uses what we call the true boxing eye test. Because when you're using the true boxing eye test, in the true boxing eye test faction, it denotes one thing and one thing clear, which is as simple as this. Cinnamon Dust, Horchata, Canelo Saul Alvarez is a pay-to-loser, a rehydration clauser, a wounded animal, a cherry picker, a guy that's a boxing judging gifting decision, and a guy now that shortens your training camper. This is what this guy is at his truest and his most properest levels. So why are we denigrating? Why are we regressing? And why are we bringing down a super fight of the super middleweight ages in Caleb Plant versus David Benavidez to the cinnamon dust horchata of a Canelo Alvarez's level? It's a things that make you say, It's a things that make you say, So what it evidently tells us is that boxing community fan bases are what, like Hino's Sport and Family says, Rudy Poo and Plum Plum Brain. Classic dotes and troglodytes. Ultra fanboys with the ultra fanboy rhetoric. Because when it's all said and done, at its truest and its most properest levels, you don't regress a middleweight, super middleweight fight of the ages to the cinnamon horchata or cinnamon dust fraud job of a Canelo Alvarez's level. I keep the foot on the whoop on the X. I keep the foot on the whoop on the X. What's not cold-hearted about that? What's not unadulterated about that? What's not the cutthroat truth teller fashion? This is Hino's Sport. Checking out.
Smoke is free, but you can't smoke for free.
Go ahead, he knows.